Hey yo, what's up, everybody? Dan Tom here with the Protect Your Neck Podcast, your host, whose work you've probably seen over at MMA Junkie Action Network, other places, hopefully not too many other places, because those are the places that are paying me. But it's good to see you guys here, as I further and further look like the nerdy Asian version of the scientists in Independence Day. They don't let us out much, as I'm still haven't been able to do my usual 3 or 4 piece haircut. Usually so busy I'm cutting my hair in installations there. As I do my own. But yeah, no, neither here nor there. We are not here for the hair talk. We are here for the MMA talk. Of course, UFC 286 we're going to be breaking down from top to bottom. Check the timestamps if you're listening in the future. I'll have the fancy YouTube ones up like later. Thank you to the Jack Slack timestamp guy in the comments there who helped me show me the key to many things that I am too stupid to figure out. But with the help of you guys, we are making it through some way, somehow. Obviously, there's going to be no timestamps right now as I'm live. Thank you for joining me. Feel free to like, even though I'm a little late, as per usual. Still feel free to like. You could do that, post hence the video. I think there's super likes, super chats, if you want to show your support in a monetary way. But, Dan Tom will read and answer your questions anyways. He doesn't care, so it's fine. It is there though. For anybody, we actually did pretty good last weekend, considering it was just a volatile week. If anybody made it out alive, consider yourself lucky. I'm gonna keep that same energy. I was lucky. No big victory laps incoming. I'll probably be just laughing at myself. As y'all are welcome to, and as others may have. It was good times. It was definitely good times last week. Shout out to listener, by the way, Martin P. Over there for the kind tickets and good time there. Went to see the CAD that we're gonna recap here. Dvalishvili, of course, beat Peter Yan, billed as Yan Dvalishvili. UFC Las Vegas. We'll also do a brief recap of the card that happened the night before that, Bellator 292. I had analysis out pre. I had plays, and that was a better night than the UFC. So we'll just touch on that very quickly, as we tend to do, and try to give Bellator and other promotions, the love where we can. It's kind of hard on this show, kind of what my beat is and what my time has me spread, which this week, oh boyo, as per usual, I know it's like, I don't want to be that crazy guy. I just want to be like the dad without having the kids, like all I want to do right now is just hang out in my garage, whether I'm punching my bags, working on my home gym, working on my vehicle. Like, these are the things that, like, that just sound amazing. There's that commercial, like, it's truly a vacation or whatever when you can do nothing. I'm like, the days where I could do nothing. So if you have free time and health, value those things, even if the betting isn't going your way. A lot of people that I would consider sharp or would respect. Again, I'm not playing a violin. It was not just me struggling to catch winning nights here, even though I'm coming off of 2. Granted, still a losing year overall here. Let's not get it twisted, folks. But yeah, it's been tough for a lot. So if that bill fits you, then just look at the other things. Do you have your health? Do you have some free time to just breathe? Boy, those are things more that to be grateful about. So again, fast forward to the timestamps if you're listening to the future. We're going to start with the usual recaps. Do a little bit of the Amazon link's been popping, thanks to you guys. The host, of course, website, mixedmartialanalyst.com. My website hosts this here program. Offers click-throughs for those of you who shop at like websites like the Amazons or the Onnits of the world. If you buy the proteins at the Onnits or the God knows what at the Amazons, so I'll definitely give you guys shouts there. But yeah, there's click-throughs. You just click the link. You do your shopping, and at no extra charge. Sorry, I'm squinting extra here. My eyes are not doing great. But yeah, no extra charge. A little bit percentage gets clicked back here to this program. And as I get my name tag up here, at Dan Tom MMA, as I do a really awkward, creepy thumbs up. You can find me on Twitter as well as a link tree with all these links there. But yeah, there's also a secure PayPal link if you want to donate to the program. Boom. Let's see what's up with the chat. I see the usuals. My guy Mark Fellows in the house. Marky Mark. I'm putting $10 on Leon, Justin, and Brian for a $350 return. Don't at me. Yeah, man. I mean, that would be a good night for you, and would probably still be a good night for me if that gives away too much. We'll see. Andy in the house with the Razor Ramon. With the Razor Ramon Abbey. You know you're going to get love from me, Andy. What's up, Dan? What's up, Andy? I love it. Love it. Hey, yo, it's me, the bad guy. Speaking of pro wrestling, it's 316. It's not just episode 350. Can you believe it? 350 of these things. I know. Again, I'm the stressed out, nerdy Asian version of the scientist from Independence Day over here. But I mean, come on, 350 of these independent, no sponsors, no commercial breaks, no help, no production producers of the like, no clout, no you name it, no SoundCloud, no Stitcher. Yeah, we're 350 deep, baby, and 316. Speaking of pro wrestling, oh my God, Austin, Steve Austin's gonna get drunk right now. He's gonna beat Vince McMahon. Then he's gonna get in the car and drive your kids home. Or whatever Stone Cold says. I don't know why he talks in the third person. I'll tell you what though, Stone Cold Steve Austin has like the opposite of like pothead energy, right? Like, could you imagine shout out to listener who's been asking for this. Could you imagine if like Nate Diaz, for example, would hang out with Stone Cold? Like, well, what would that conversation be like? Stone Cold's gonna first get the fire hose. Well, Stone Cold's gonna pay this alimony payment and stuff. Yeah, that's just. Can we just fucking chill out, Stone Cold? Like, I think you should just. Oh, what do you think, Stone Cold? Try some of your damn weed, Mr. Diaz? I'm just saying, dog. Like, if you could try, like, let's just start with a CBD joint, like I was smoking before the Pettis fight. Like, it could be a way where you don't have to fuck up your liver, Stone Cold, and maybe with the anti-inflammatory qualities, you can do more than 5 fucking moves. What are you saying? Stone Cold doesn't have more moves than a punch? The kick before the stunner? The Bam Bam Bigelow headbutt where I kind of just pass out for a second from drinking, but it looks like a headbutt? Or the second rope? Because I can't go to the top turnbuckle because my knees are so bad? Dude had like 5 moves, didn't he, in his prime? I was like, how did this guy get this crazy rise in their like golden era, right? I know this is not a golden era DX Stone Cold WWF WCW podcast, but I mean, forgive me, sorry, Razor Ramon, you got Stone Cold. Just, alcoholic wrestlers were my favorite, man. They just amazed me, and I could not imagine Nate Diaz hanging out with any of them, but it probably would have been better for their health if Nate was there. So, again, sorry. Voice is gone, and impressions don't come as often, which means they're definitely not as good now with me doing the visual versions. But I'm trying for you guys. We got Chronic Combat. Speaking of weed, we got Chronic Combat Conversations in the house. Nobody cares more about their craft than Dan Tom. True. Thank you. I care a little too much, though, man. I really gotta revamp and find ways to refortify. It's getting tough on these streets here. I'm gonna try to bring you guys. By the way, I got my guy Ant Walker on board as per usual. Want to do the live commentaries, but I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow. Apropos, so I'm not just bringing things up to bitch. It actually is apropos to the programming that you guys, for whatever reason, are here. But I appreciate you. I'm gonna probably go get denied. Not doctor, but the optometrist. We'll see. Knock on wood. Still dealing with this chalazion thing or whatever, and my eye just keeps acting up and blurring, and we can't get a focus and a read, and it's just annoying. And yada yada stuff you guys don't care about, but it may affect me, unfortunately. So if you don't see me, I'll probably announce it whether I do or don't. But there is a chance that I don't do the live commentary for the last 3 fights, and it's not on my man Ant. He is ready to go. It's on me. Just been just been struggling with this stuff. Also had just again curveballs and things I'm more than happy to do, more than happy to help, more than grateful to have the opportunity to do these things regarding work. And definitely grateful to be able to get paid any amount to do these things. Grateful for all that, folks. Not complaining about that, but Curveballs such as the business is just really, between the work ones and then the off work ones with the old health. The usual same story with me. So trying my best for you guys. I got a lot of, with the extra work though, I got a little extra thorough Lebowski. Maybe a little bit, I don't know, last week I think I really killed it. I had fucking 12 or 13 fights pretty much almost researched for you guys, roughly so. It's like a 15 fight card, and we're not splitting between Bellator, so numbers least impressive. But all the fights that I wanted to bet and target and research, I pretty much did more or less. Some lacking on the Southpaw report, which is still coming in on the Twitter at DanTomMMA, but I feel good. So we'll see what I got. We got Rio Susan Truesdale in the house. Hey Dan, how cool is it that Leon Edwards is finally getting the respect he deserves from the technical dudes like us? Yeah, it is really cool. It's just cool to see Leon happy. I don't know if you see him during media day this week. He's not as awkward as normal, and I don't mean that to S on the guy. I myself am obviously more than awkward in plenty of ways socially. Not that I'm saying Leon is, but I'm just saying he seems looser and happier is what I'm trying to say. Not trying to diagnose the man. James Kendrick, Dan is the man. Oh, really? I don't know about that, but thank you. He says, Dan is the man. I told Drake to listen to your calling out the media on Asian hate ignorance on UFC 261, and he didn't believe me. Drake said that it's Asian fighters' accessibility at fault. I don't know the context of that, so I'm not going to put stuff in my guy Drake's mouth. He's on my list though to get on this podcast. And he says, and doesn't feel the media was being ignorant. I just don't understand this and need to protect. I just don't understand this need to protect each media members when you know something is wrong. And wrong needs to be called out. Yeah, I don't know Drake's stance in context. I would probably have to see that clip myself, James. I'm very familiar with your stance, so that helps. But part of the pie, you guys are obviously familiar with my stance on things and all that kind of stuff goes. I try my best to keep the same energy. I too am only human. I get as far as not wanting to offend media members or S where you eat. It's kind of like a natural role that people like me honestly should be better at, and I probably have. I definitely have hurt and probably am and continue to hurt by being outspoken, even on things like talking about my eye. I'm finally in a negotiation period. That's all I'll say. And I alluded to it last week, so it's not like I'm saying anything new. And I didn't go over any lines last week. It's a good thing. It's to do more things that I like, which would mean I may have to cut back a bit. And really, plan things out with as far as what I want to do with this podcast. But yeah, it's hard, even being outspoken about health or being busy. Should I really be talking about being busy, Dan, and having health issues when you are trying to negotiate for more work? That's not smart, right? That's not very smart. So, who am I to criticize when people actually do things the right way? I probably, not the air quotes the right way, I probably should be doing more often than not. But by the way, speaking of circumstantial luck and all this BS, I was looking at a lot of the fighters, because a lot of these London shows, they recycle the fighters that they either haven't fought since last March, or that's just one of, if you're looking at the relevant past 2 to 3 fights of a fighter when you're doing your own tape study, last March's London events, obviously a lot of the fighters fighting this weekend, folks, on 286, we're on that one. And if you remember, last March was the last time I and many from the workplace may or may not have been been negotiation season, contract season, right? They say in sports, really important. And yeah, it was also the normal stuff, of course, I'm sure, the overloading. This once you get to 7-8 weeks into these 12-week runs that the UFC throws us through nonstop, it gets a little overwhelming, right? All that stuff aside, but it was actually personal family stuff, regarding mi madre and stuff like that. And I had to take 3 weeks off, if you guys remember, of the pod. And unfortunately, just due to timing, which is oh so favorable to your boy here, very grateful, very privileged, all those things. I'm just saying, when it comes to circumstantial timing, terrible track record, right? Yeah, it cost me a whole year of potential, earnings, negotiations, a bunch of things, right? And to little things like, trying to prepare for this podcast, going, oh, I should have notes on him because he fought in this main event. Oh, I should have notes on her because she was on this main card. And I go back and I'm trying to find all my digital work, and I'm like, where is it all? I'm like, oh, I was off this month. So I've been a teensy bit paranoid, with the old MMA gods or Dan gods or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a religious person, whatever you want to call it. Coming at me this week. Somebody's gambling out there that I'm gonna break. But yeah. So it feels like some weeks. So I don't know, man. I will continue to be as honest as I can. But man, I'm trying not to be as quick to sling mud either. I get that. But yeah, I also try to, for better or worse, try to be as honest as I can. And I don't know. I've always liked Drake, man. Kyle Johnson, Dan's slowly morphing into BD Wong. Probably, yeah. Like BD Wong's older cat, right? So they're probably, there we go. That's the reference. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Olivia Wang Yu. Hello. I am a Chinese college student studying at USCD and recently got into MMA last year. Chinese MMA community, mainly fans of Zhangwei Li, recommended this podcast to learn about MMA. Thank you. I'll try to get to the MMA shortly here. Last one before my guy goes Phantom, and we'll get on. Garbopolis Rosen. Hello, Dan. Good to see you. Good luck with your picks and plays. Hopefully Leon wins because I am not a fan of the Usman cringe. Listen, I get how Usman talks in a certain way, but we'll get to that fight. I got love for both guys. Ghost Phantom, hey Dan, protect your neck with a baseball hat, 2-on-1 preferably. That's right, my man. Esther Lou, hi. Jack Slack said he was disappointed at the rest of the UFC card. Do you agree? I didn't go much. I didn't research much past the featured prelim. Spoiler alert. Oh, I lied. I see my man Brad Tashuk in the house. I'm one bad card away from the food kitchens at this point, Dan. My guy Brad, buddy, you're due. So are the rest of my homies over there from the analysis. I believe. I want to believe. But yeah, I feel you. I've been 3 steps close to the edge, and people like probably Bradley and others, I'm sure, have talked me away from it multiple times this past year. So believe me, I am not too high off the results, which we'll get to here. 17 minutes in for Bellator 292. We went 2-1 in straight plays. Let's see here. Of course, the card was headlined by Usman Nurmagomedov defending his title within the Grand Prix confines to Benson Henderson. Picked this one by decision. It was just like I was going to pick finish, and then it was like which way, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's hopeful thinking that Benson Henderson can go on one of those ever rare, inspiring losses. He's hard to finish, Maybe the moral victory going the decision. Not really, and I'm glad I didn't bet it, and I'm glad I exercised discipline and my lean to bet Nurmagomedov by decision. The shots I did take, though, under that with the Grand Prix fight, one many of us were looking for, was ended kind of anticlimactically, albeit by a legal blow that apparently fractured Tufik Musayev's ribs when Alexander Shabley, who cashed the 1.5 unit play, minus 145 was the magic number for Bellator. And we'll get to Victor Henry over on the UFC. But very grateful. Even though you could argue neither were lucky bounces, I still feel grateful. I still feel very lucky, nonetheless, believe me. Split decision. We'll get to the split decision. You should always feel lucky for that in MMA, regardless if it's justified or not. It's a reality at this point, right? And Shabley, just because of the at first I wasn't sure if it was legal or not, and I've had plays taken from me in those situations before. So it's just, you always want to be careful, what is it? Holland Dukakis comes to mind. Anyone who was on the Dukakis side is counting their ticket too early. No. Interjects Herb Dean, who wasn't even reffing the fight, to influence Big Dan, who went with the call. That was very crucial for Dukakis's record contract. Kind of, wow, that guy, and then he ended up fighting his contract after that. Wow. But yeah, anyways, it's just these things can go crazy ways. Point being, that being said, despite a non-crazy start, I did like the body work and the slow build encounters. I felt like it was going more Shabley's way. Most people familiar with these fighters, and even if you did the old resume breakdown on Gazing, you'll see one is more experienced in the later rounds. for what that's worth. But again, I feel grateful and lucky to have gotten this one. I missed the start of the fight, and when I tuned into Linton Vassell, I don't know why Vassell sounds like something like sexual. Something there, or is it just my perverted? That's probably my perverted head. Versus Valentin Moldavsky. But again, my you know, it's a very low percentage game. It's not a fun game to play. You're gonna lose more often than not trying to play the spot the fake Russian. To be in a very crude, ignorant term. Don't take that at face value, very jokingly, folks. But you know what I'm saying. You know, when it comes to what is it? Shamil Gamzatov. I call Shamzatov, for example. Right? You guys know what I'm saying, right? KD's ear sounds like the Jurassic Park dude who in the PlayStation original game from 1994 when he gets eaten by the raptor when he tries to go for takedowns. Ibragimov. Shouts to anybody who got that reference. Yeah, Dan, relevant references. Wow, video gamer. Tell us what's new on the block. But yeah, like again, his conservative style. It's not just not sexy, and I'm a guy who would defend I don't know how hard I defended the grinding styles of the John Fitches and Jake Shields of the day, but, I'd say, hey, that's just how some of us grapple, because I've got a very grindy style myself, I guess. But yeah, but at heavyweight it's different. You conservative can mean safe, but conservative and safe at heavyweight is not safe because you're in there longer for bad things to happen. And thankfully Linton Vassell, I did tune in time for him to clip Moldavsky and cash that plus 275 ticket. Page versus Goiti Yamauchi. This was the only miss, and it was by injury, and I'm not even going to be sour grapes about it. I just hope, Yamauchi's okay, man. He's just been getting himself into crazy shape, and he is still in his prime, so you just really hope. Patella tendon's no joke. That's a tough one. Shouts to my guy, MMA Junkie George over there on MMA Junkie Radio. That dude had a long recovery. I was there when he snapped his one during our military visit. I think it was only him and Misha Tate were the only ones brave enough to volunteer to put the dog suit on and get mauled by dogs. Me, Colby, and Paul Felder were like, nope, no thank you. Goes, we're like, nope. But yeah, the dog took... I'm not even sure what to speak about that, because technically it never happened. Point is, patella tendon... American military, baby. Wake up with your stuff while your phone disappeared. So... But yeah, where the hell was I? Anyways, I hope Yamauchi is okay. Didn't watch the undercard. Didn't see my guy Yegji Muradov defeat Anglikas. Or any of the Hill Cass-Bell decision. Didn't catch any of that. Can't really weigh in on that. Where are we? 22. Let's go to UFC. Recap. My handwriting looks so messy. It looks like I'm writing in like Sanskrit or I don't know what Sanskrit, what it's called. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it looks like I'm writing directions on a wall in Qatar with the scribbliness of my writing. It's pretty bad. All right, UFC 2 Las Vegas took place. We went. Where the fuck did we go? I wrote my plays. We went 2-5 overall, 2-2 in straight plays. Sorry, 2-5. Jesus, my S's look like 5s. 2-2 in straight plays. 0-2 in props. 1 out of 4 in the round robin, which meant nothing, and which also meant 0 for 1 in the long shot parlay. But we still squeaked out profit. I can't remember how much. It was barely any, and I'm just happy to get away with a winning night. I wrote Landsman. So we'll page note that. That was very apropos, considering I recorded last week's podcast before the weigh-in. But let's see how we did overall. We went 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. Ooh, 5-1 on the prelims. That's good. Or on the main card. That's good. 5-2. Ooh, 5-3. Ooh, 5-4. 6-4. Ooh, 6-5. Ooh, 6-6. Ah, 7-6. We finished positive. Yay! You got to see that in real time, folks. 7-6 overall on the card. Of course, I'm gonna go from where I was drunkest and where I have least recollection, and where I should have most recollection, and where you guys are most interested, and I will surely fail for the reasons I just mentioned. Radivillashvili defeated Peter Yan via unanimous decision, 50-45 across the board. I was too drunk, but by the time the main event happened, and considering that all my official action was over, I will admit I did take some tickets at the counter. I think I came out just short of the counter unofficially on track, but you guys know I posted both winning and losing. Who posts their losing tickets? You know, I did that last time. You guys know me. I'm not one to hide there. But for what it's worth, I was too drunk to post anything, really. I was like, oh, what did I post? I did take like a parlay, I think, that was like just for shits and giggles, that had like Krylov, Henry, and Jan. So that didn't hit, but I didn't give a shit at that point. I must have been sitting in the Georgian flag section. I mean, there was a lot of Georgian flags everywhere, but there was like an immense crowd of them. And I was like, I'm not getting beat up today. Georgia! Marab, baby! Marab! Yeah! Yeah! Give him fist bump. I had a flag, I'd be fucking waving it too. It was just awesome, live crowd experience. It was big enough to have a crowd, but small enough to be intimate, which I don't know about you guys. Feel free. I said this last time in the chat. Feel free to tell me in the chat. What's your guys' favorite? Do you guys like the more intimate venues? If you have been able and lucky enough to go to the Apex and could afford it, let me know what you think of that. Or you like the big giant venues, outdoor stadiums. How do you get down? What's your strand? Hit it in the chat below. I like that nice, intimate kind of balance feel, to be honest. I do feel for shorter people as a, I don't know. I am short according to Tinder. According to this generation. But 5'9", I was like, as average dude, I have to, kind of strategically make sure that there wasn't any, 6'3" people in front of me. But I'm like, man, I'm just saying for people, looking to buy stuff at the Virgin Hotel. I went to concerts there before. You're a little bit more free to move around, but in the fight scenario, you're kind of got your seat, right? You can seat hop if it's open and all that normal tricks. But just letting you guys know, if you're deciding, do I shell out for the upper deck or for the bleachers? But for me, I honestly didn't have a problem. I was having a good time. I think I was up on a chair by the time Rob was fighting, just cheering on the walkout. So yeah, there. Oh, Jesus, stinky man. Benji farted. It's okay. Grateful he's around too. Stink up my office. Just kidding. I love him, but yeah, that's what he does these days. Alexander Volkov defeated Alexander Romanov. Sorry for the Michael Schiavello. Again, even when I pick Volkov correctly, my record, I think picking his fights increases to 4 out of his last 14, which is still fucking terrible, and my betting record is easily worse than that on him, because even this time, the rounds 2 and 3, and no live pickups past round 1, because Romanov just came out and he looked on the scale. Again, I wrote Landsman down because I was listening to an interview and I was like, I even called this out, even though didn't say and expecting him to be that big or that big again. I was like, who's he training with, right? Like, he's back, he's back in Moldova. Is that where he's at? And I'm like, and then I listened to an interview. Remember I said he stopped to train in Baltimore. I'm like, who's he training with Baltimore? Like, The Wire's in Baltimore. Is he training with Landsman? Which was kind of ironic that I said Landsman. If you want to look up Landsman, because he showed up on the scale looking like Landsman. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was pretty intense. So we got Landsman, Moldovan Landsman over there. Went down by TKO. That was just depressing. I was like, all right, well. And then I think I looked over at this point and saw like a beer and a half, and I was like, oh, I'm behind on the beers. I better get drinking. Oh God. Oh yeah, I'm cutting back and getting back on the training schedule. I'm probably gonna have to do it after Saturday, whether I do a live commentary stream or not. I'm gonna map out my week, because by Sunday it's too late. And apologies to those of you I haven't gotten back to in DMs. It's been so crazy this week. Jonathan Martinez defeated Said Nurmagomedov via unanimous decision. Again, I will consider myself, even though people I respect, people that have no bets, no skin in the game, people that I respect, unbiased, and went back to rewatch. People that do podcasts on scoring. Shouts to the Couchside Judges. All these people agreed that my guy Jonathan Martinez was the more damaging fighter and should have got the nod. But it was a close fight, man. It looked like a close fight, and it wasn't just competitive. Again, competitive and close are different things. Close is when you start talking about justifying scores the other way. Competitive is just not getting blown out of the water can qualify you for competitive depending on the definer, right? This was close. So again, no victory laps, no I told you so's. Incredibly grateful, but between me being drunk and just loving, and you guys know, man, Jonathan Martinez is my guy. Like, he is one of those fighters, and because of this, probably just like the Blagoy Ivanovs or people with just any kind of awkward bodies. We'll talk about Brian Barberina coming up. They just get disrespected. Even if the odds makers end up being right as far as who's favored, just the wideness, you can argue every time. These guys are dogs, man. And, much more talented than just scrappers than that they are semi-reluctantly even given credit for sometimes. And Jonathan Martinez even worse because he came in short notice, up a division that he subsequently has had some hard time making, right? But losing to a guy who was also a victim of that, to Andre, Sukumtat, my guy Sukumtat. But and I know, Sukumtat, wasn't like some top 15 fighter or anything. I never said that or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, that guy would just get unbelievably shit on, and he just, I never felt it was the most fair. Yes, did he struggle putting things together and this and that, but there, he was just one of those guys, right? And then so to get beat by that guy who people already don't hold high, and even people like me who defend him, I'm not saying he's like some crazy, high grade top shelf talent. No offense to the guy, all respect, right? But yeah, you come in losing to a guy like that. Like, you have that brand on you. You know what I'm saying? Like, like the kid that always gets picked on, the kid that's always getting picked on and stuff at school, and you're the new kid at school, and that kid that always gets picked on, like, decides to steal on you to try to take the spotlight off him. That shit works sometimes, And so watching Martinez have to shake that, and even people I respect, like, listening to them talk about this, the Andre Ull fight, like it was a loss, when anybody with two eyes can see that was just one of the most terrible scorecards ever. Even people who, back to defending thing, what my guy was saying, about, media defending media, or, it's the same energy as like media or people in the space, overly defending officials. Like, listen, we got to be honest at the end of the day. If I got to come on here every week and take my lickings, and be accountable publicly in multiple mediums and multiple facets, am I not allowed to tweet from my account or talk on my own show what I feel like are fair and valid criticisms, right? Like, so yeah, I get it, but even people who, who are just not quick to criticize the judging was like, oh, that was bad judging on that fight, right? So seeing and just having to just, go through these, not like that the fighter has to go through by any means, who the fuck am I? But I'm just saying, as a fan, right, as we do, go through these tribulations following these guys, and to watch them have their day against a dude with the last name Nurmagomedov, even though there's no relation, was just awesome. And by this point, I was just, again, I make fun, you think Dan's a hipster, he's so highbrow, he's not about fun. Like, I'll tell you, man, you sit me next to the Savages, and I'm having just as much fun as everybody. And I'm talking about the MMA crowds in general. I'll definitely make my jokes about them. But dude, I was an MMA crowd member. Like, it was like, I was like, oh my god, like, I went on the next day, but hopefully no one had a. By the way, shout out because while I was going to my seat, thankfully not in my section, I probably would have had videos, but like their podcast listener stopped me. I told him I'd give him a shout on the show. It was Vegas Jake Jack. Shout out Vegas Jake Jack. Somebody's shouted out me in the podcast, so I was appreciative, but I'm like, holy crap, I gotta be careful. I can't be acting like an ass on these streets. Smash cut to me acting like an ass on these streets. I was like, Martinez! He's not even related! Body work! Body work! Like, I was just literally yelling like that. It was hilarious. Like, well, not hilarious to anybody but me. Probably to you guys, because you can laugh at me. That's why I tweeted at one point again. Probably not good I tweet this stuff, It's contract time. It's like, who is this guy wanting more money and work? The same guy going to shows drunkenly. Hey. I never abuse my credential, folks. That's why I never go to these shows, because I don't. If you go to a show, you got to work. I went as a fan with a general admission ticket. Okay, so it's all good. But yeah, he's not even related. And some guy like turns around and he just goes, and he just gives me like the Lee Trevino from Happy Gilmore, like the head shaking his head, you know. And I just kind of put my hands up and like, hey, and I was like, well, he might win. Your guy, because I could tell he's a Nurmagomedov fan. I'm like, your guy might still win, but it's true, it's factually true. And the guy kind of just like giggled and turned back around, kind of a deal. And we had the last laugh, baby. Him and probably everybody else in my section who, I don't know, I was by a lot of Georgians, so maybe they didn't bet the Russian, you know what I'm saying, right? Yeah, sorry, you're getting Dan Tom's drunken recap. It's not very technical. Mario Bautista defeated Guido Canetti round 1 by submission. The line had it exactly right. They made that fight unbettable. Vitor Petrino defeated Ankon Turcal. Again, I was like, oh God, I was like drunk, and I started like tweeting on a rant. I'm like, I should be grateful for that. I went back and read the tweet. It's actually very fair. And I even said this was a really good fight night. This was a really good fight night. And again, like I said on Twitter, and like I said to my man Martin, incredibly grateful to get to go. Incredibly grateful to be able to do what I do. But you got to understand, when I'm seeing the Twitter timeline, and when we're, you know, I have nothing to do but drink. This is probably why I got so drunk, because between Carl Williams and Lucas Bresky and Vitor Petrino and Turcal, like, it was just like, holy crap, like, this is an actual good fight night card, and they still managed to fuck up. They still managed to find the Contender Series too raw, to put in a very nice way, which is the nice way of saying it. Big guy divisions, which, you know, again, I love my big guys, who, you know, Julian Marquez, you know, I've had Sam Alvey first do it on the show. Todd Duffy almost did a podcast with that guy. Me and him, you know, are friends. I'm not shitting on the big dudes. Those guys all follow me, and I'm not shitting on your divisions. It's just for entertainment purposes and pacing, right? As far as pacing goes, like, is it crazy and unfair for me to say that we're probably going to get a more well-rounded and higher-paced fight from people under the 170 than a 185 and above, per se? Yet, again, the matchmakers, God forbid, they're just probably so pissed that they actually have to, you know, headline a bantamweight fight night, you know, which are awesome, and thankfully we have some more coming down the pike, but yeah, like, we got to throw light heavyweights and like middleweights or heavyweights or whatever for card lead-ins. And I know it wasn't a pay-per-view, so it wasn't like your typical prelim lead-in, but, you know, the feature prelim still should be a spot that is cared for. It still serves a purpose, right? Even especially when some of these fight night cards will change broadcast, even within the same mother channel of ESPN 1 to a 2 sometimes, right? And ABC here at ESPN Plus there. All the more reason to, you know, make sure you're having, you know, important things, bridging those gaps, leading in and out. I don't know. No. Big guys. Big raw guys. And to almost double down on it, just like, again, I told you guys this, just like I told you all these other things that continue to freaking happen, right? Like the USADA Dog and Pony Show. Like, everybody's like, oh, Dog and Pony Show. I'm like, oh, who's been saying that since the fucking Jump Street, folks? This is not news. This is just more information, you know, being realized to it. But yes, file it under that category, I guess, with card structures and whatnot. But another thing that I said with that regard, where Dana will do, and now you know. Like, there'll be so many good fights and he won't go, and now you know. But if just anybody from the Contender Series, I think I've even seen it for people that he refused to sign, and they still got on there anyways, because, again, everyone wants to fight, ultimate filler content. And just anyone from a Contender Series wins, even if someone didn't give the contract, will be like, now you know. And it's the same thing. It's like, I feel like they're like, we got to, maybe it isn't Mick and Sean, and maybe they don't have a fetish with big dudes that we're not aware of, which is fine. Again, you want to have a dude fetish all you want. Can we just try to structure the cards a little better? I don't know. But maybe it's not then. Maybe it's Dana with, you know, And he's just like still living like, again, if Dana's head is like, fucking new metal is still new, even though that's not how it's spelled, but I'm gonna ignore that because I probably don't know the difference. And it's fucking awesome, and everybody still loves it, just like they love Polar Ice gum. He keeps the bowl of Polar Ice in his office. I don't know if he still does. He did that Apex office tour. But according to his logic, if he's still living 20 years in the past, like the light heavyweights and the heavyweights are like the marquee shit, right? That's the marquee shit. I mean, that's also because 170 and below really didn't exist in the UFC. But yeah, if we're going 20 years ago, according to Dana's logic, maybe that's it. And so he just doubles down. And sure enough, what gets fight of the night? Is it Merab and Jan? No. It's fucking Pleasure Man, who used to be called the Pleasure Boy, by the way. Should we be worried about that? Like, what was going on there? But, Pleasure Boy and Petrino get fight of the night. Like, what the fuck are they even doing? Anyways, and then, Davy Grant, swinging bones. Who called that, man? Reverse triangle, Rafael Sunsao. I'm not going to get too into this because, again, I bet it. I'm a Sunsao fan. I'm a fan of veterans. And he trained out of Extreme Couture. And my guy Eric Nixick was in the corner. Like, I have all the biases against me. If I disagree with any of this, it's going to be like, of course you disagree, Dan. So, I honestly didn't get emotional about it on the fight. I still got to rewatch it. And I still haven't rewatched this or anything because I haven't had time because I had to immediately turn the page while still trying to recover from a multitude of things. I will say that, it does suck, and it does. I see the point everybody is saying how it almost rewards you to foul in MMA. I will say that is true, not just in this scenario, but pretty much in all scenarios. It's bad, and it's the system is not exactly the greatest in that regard. So I don't disagree with those things, and I particularly don't disagree/agree with people giving the notes of. And it's hard to call them the time. That's another thing too. It's an again. I'll defend the officials here because it is a hard job, man. I don't envy these guys, whether it's the judges or the referees to do in real time. But yes, I do believe they should be calling the point and allowing the action to kind of continue through and let it play out organically. And a Sunsao probably would have been able to go on top. And again, my bet and all my biases aside, people that had no skin in the game. We're sad to see that, a guy not just on his way to winning, but that was his last fight. And now he has to retire, getting strangled unconscious after the disrespect, Again, you want to talk about title shots, and I don't blame, Longo and those guys getting, all uppity and uptight about anybody that wants to bring up and pair Merab versus Aljo. Because, at the end of the day, what the fuck? Are we pretending these rankings mean anything? Are we pretending number one contender means anything? Look at us. Look at a Sunsao, right? Just below the card. How many title shots could you have justified through that guy's UFC tenure? The WEC vet, right? Like, shit. So, it's just, it's a brutal game, man. It's a brutal game. Congrats to Davey Grant. Glad a Sunsao's okay. Josh Frem defeated Cedric Dumas. I was happy for Frem just because he just seems like a hard-working dude and just really brutal loss last time out. Kind of got to avenge it here. And yeah, I just didn't get why the line was getting so heavily steamed toward Dumas. And apparently the dude had a bunch of domestic abuse charges, not to, just cherry pick things to make people feel bad. You look deep into any fighters or our own backgrounds, right? Maybe not the same, obviously, but I mean, let he who cast the first stone. For anybody who wants to say that, I get it, but I will say it is kind of ironic. Apparently, this guy picked up some DV charges after getting signed. Never come back from hitting the women. Never come back from hitting the women, folks. That has clearly been established this year now. Anyways, happy to see Frem win. That's all I'll say on that. Victor Henry defeaed Tony Gravely. Oh, Gravely. Sorry. Very happy just because of make him suffer. Bodywork. I was just screaming bodywork. I was probably buzzed enough to be yelling about the bodywork here. So I was happy to see that rewarded. But again, this was a close fight, folks. I am not going to victory lap or go, that's right, baby. That's right. Or anything like that. Like, no. I got very lucky here. I'm very grateful to get out of this one. I'm very grateful to get a split decision to go my way. As I tweeted, not to shit on anybody who took it, but glad I avoided the JJ Aldridge, because who could, wow. I mean, both Lipsky looking good and Aldridge looking bad. I don't want to focus too much on the latter because I don't want to take away from Lipsky. But yeah, those body knees, man. It felt like watching vintage Cerrone when he got the beat on somebody and was just landing body knees. That's what it felt like. So good on Lipsky. Bruno Silva defeated Tyson Nam. Of course, I was on Hawaii, Tyson Nam, but I got a good view of that front kick in person. Oh my God, it was beautiful. So just like I gave props to live, props to Silva for that, man. I hope Nam's okay. Carlston Harris defeated Jared Gooden via unanimous decision. I missed this fight. We were kind of rolling in right around this fight. Just gotta getting some food in me to. Otherwise, I really would have been in trouble. I probably would have been like, I probably would have been like the girl rushing the octagon. That Kay Hansen looking girl who rushes the octagon. That viral video from a bit ago. Yeah. All right. 45. That ends. Let's go to Amazon reads quickly, and then I'll clean up the chat before we get the breakdown knocked out of the park here, huh? You know what? I gotta share this bad boy too, but I'll do that when we do the breakdown. How about that? Now I don't gotta feel bad. Of course, mixedmartialanalyst.com supports this here program. It's my website. It hosts this here show, I should say. You guys support the show by sharing and liking and all those things. But in case you want to do more, there's super likes, super chats if you're watching live right now on YouTube. If you're listening in the future, again, mixedmartialanalyst.com has links like a secure PayPal donation link, as well as the one, is it? Here, creepy thumbs up. At Dan Tom MMA, my link tree on Twitter. Also there, secure PayPal link if you want to make a straight up donation to the show. But if you don't want to spend any extra money and you shop at places like Amazon or On It, you click on it, click through banner, or Amazon click through banner. And no extra costs. It will kick back a small percentage of your purchase right here to this here program, and it really helps a lot. On It doesn't tell me any information, and Amazon doesn't tell me any personal information. But it does tell me what is bought. So, for example, it won't tell me your name or anything like that, folks. So don't worry if you want to, take a shot and make another David Carradine joke. If you want to be David Carradine, have your own one night in Bangkok, buy the special kimono, the vibrating nunchucks, the silk rope, right? I'm just saying, folks, somewhere there's I was working security, and it was a former, and I remember that David Carradine news broke, and like he, erotic asphyxiation or whatever, this or that. And I was watching the news, one of those overhead in the lunchroom under the Wynn Hotel, and one of the guys I worked with, David, who was an drug cop from Arizona, a lot of ex-cops military in those positions, right? He was just looking at it, and he's like, son of a bitch. And I look over, I was like, oh, is this guy a David Carradine fan or something? And he's just like, I'm telling you, Dan, I'm telling you. Somewhere in Bangkok right now, there's an 8-year-old boy that knows exactly what happened in that room. It's just like with a straight face. I was like, I love you, David. How the hell did we get on this? The point is, if you want to have your own one night in Bangkok, hopefully not asphyxiate yourself, be sure to click through the Amazon link first. Support this here show so you are squeezing out to a good cause. Somebody bought a hand duo. It's my both dyslexia and my head is still in the dirty place. Juan Nuo dual monitor stand and adjustable spring monitor. Thank you for that. That was not cheap. Someone bought a 12-piece kunai throwing knife set. Is this the same person buying all the ninja stuff? That's buying all the tactical gear? Hopefully I'm not on your list. Okay, all right. Somebody bought a Asus VP 2HE 2.15 monitor, full 1080p. That was not cheap either. Thank you for purchasing that through the click-through link. Really appreciate that. Someone bought a Faichi green screen backdrop stand. Oh wow! Somebody's getting doing their own little shows, huh? Plus someone also bought a 1080p webcam, USB with microphone. Nice, good stuff. Thank you for thinking of me for the click through. What else we got here? Somebody else bought Friday the 13th 8-movie collection on Blu-ray. That wasn't cheap. Thank you very much. Who bought that? A fellow horror movie fan and connoisseur. I appreciate that. I haven't seen this one yet. You guys can let me know in the chat without spoiling it if it was good. But The Whale with Brendan Fraser. And I'm late on a lot of the movies and stuff. But anybody see The Whale? Somebody bought that. Or a pre-order of sorts. Thank you for clicking through the Amazon links there. Really, really appreciate that. Gonna try to clean up the chat. We got RJ Bertle in the house. I read your analysis. I hope Leon wins it well as well. Shh, we're gonna get to it. Just kidding. Yeah, it's already out there. The in-depth, of course, MMAJunkie.com as per usual. Guy and Nightlord, why didn't any of the media members ask Kamaru and Justin about their testing weapons for a violent dictator? I didn't finish on the interviews, but I was just thinking about that. I'm like, did anybody ask? I was actually gonna ask if you guys caught, if you heard anybody ask him this week, because I haven't either. So, yeah, if anybody hears that or has heard different, please feel free to interject. Dan Hamilton, Stone Cold Stunner, then crack open a Budweiser. Hell yeah! Let's go, Brad Tashchuk, because the media at those events value access to UFC cards more than the answer to those questions. Yeah, there's also, right, I mean, not just, fellow media members or, officials. Obviously, the main elephant in the room is access, right? Access and how that affects the way people speak or doesn't affect. Depends, right? It's absolutely the elephant in the room, or the main one. Spot on, Bradley. Kyle Johnson, honestly, one of the better Nate impressions I've ever heard. It was a pretty bad one, man, but thank you, Kyle. I appreciate it. Craig Johnston, hello from Heathrow, rooting for Leon Edwards. England in the house. Solid Avi there. Dan Hamilton, Razor Ramon, hey yo. Razor Ramon fan, a man of taste and pleasure, huh? First Amendment right comes with the right to offend others. I suppose so. Jen Karasu says, I never bet, but I like to root for Dan's picks just so he can make money. I appreciate the good juju. I'll take it. We could probably all be sending our juju to more productive places than my bets, of course, but I will take it. Ghost Phantom, Linton Vassell from Milton Keynes was my favorite moment of the card. It was mine too, Ghost Phantom. It was mine too. Could have been Jack Slacks as well. Kyle Johnson says, hit on a parlay with Barzola, Josh Hill, and LFA fighter Rodolfo Bellato, but definitely dodged a bullet with the Hill decision. I'm glad it went your way, my friend. I'm glad it went your way. A vassal is a term for someone else's subordinate. That's maybe why you think it's sexual. Okay. A vessel. Maybe a vessel? A vassal. I don't know. There we go. We're learning every day. Beer cheese with pretzels are awesome, by the way. Don't tempt me. I've been a good boy this week. All right. Did you know the Georgians to start calling him the snooze machine? Brad, what would have been great if I fell asleep, because I don't have a recollection. So like maybe I did pass out during the main event. Like if only someone could have snapped a picture. Like that would have been so perfect. Like just me passed out with like a beer spilled like Georgian flag over my face. That would have gone over well. Kyle Johnson, Aldridge busted one parlay for me, but turned a profit with some others that had Batista and Henry / Gravely plus Martinez / Saeed overs. Glad to see you back on track, Dan. We'll see, but thank you. Glad to see you make it out alive. Jin Karasu says, I'm a big crowd type of guy. Lots of energy. Nothing wrong with that. Lots of energy indeed. Kyle Johnson says he prefers intimate venues with a good crowd are the best for any concert and event, in my opinion. I dig it too. He says, got to sit cage side for some upstate New York events. Marias Rivera, RDA Lee, and it was great. Oh, nice. Low-key events there. Esther Liu says, I think big crowds. I was at UFC 275 at the Singapore Indoor Stadium, and atmosphere was incredible. Ooh, that show looked fun, too. I was just watching an event from that show. Gotta go to Singapore sometime. I gotta hit that part of Asia. All right, I want to get going on here. I do see some other new people on the channels. We got Jaden Banel. I haven't seen him. He says, "Are you a fan of the UFC putting all the white power slap in front of all the UFC event?" Not a fan of that. Also, Third Reich. Oh, you got all the nicknames. I love it. Also, Third Reich's Duplessis is funny as a name and meme fighter. Is funny as a name and as a meme fighter, and he's so bad yet gotten title contention again. I was warning you guys about this guy's views, and slowly but surely, with the help of him, of course, having no shame, everybody's talking about what we here have been talking about on this show. And boy, let me tell you, the comments have been disturbing to say the least. I was gonna say, like, it felt like an Aljamain Sterling fight week in the sense of, like, just seeing the comments on, like, Kamaru Usman stuff. And again, you don't have to be a fan of the guy. That's totally cool. I'm talking about more like the racial stuff, obviously, is the elephant in the room there, the common thread, right? Let's be honest. And then, not the most sensitive of crowds. But then I just looked at the comments of, like, the Africa thing alone, and I'm like, unless everybody is, like, selling out to pro wrestling status levels of the jokes that, hey, I myself, I'd like to think that I'm punching up instead of down. But yeah, I myself make jokes too. I'm not above it, folks. I'm not trying to be moralistic here. You woke moralist, or anything like that. But yeah, like just seeing the comments, I was just like, oh God, okay, back to work I go. That's for dang sure. Ugh. Again, not saying you gotta like Usman or anybody. That's totally fine if you don't. I'm just talking about the weird racial stuff. All right, Raimundo Martin, my man, one of the best in the business. Let's cash some tickets. Yes, me and you both, hopefully, Raimundo. I hope you're well, my man. Yeah, it's been crazy. Channel DX main event wasn't as boring as people want to make it. Really crazy performance from Merab. Yeah, I want to rewatch it again, but I'm sure I'll have no issue with scores or entertainment level as far as that goes. Massive props to Merab. All right, 56-23. We'll start breakdown soon. I'm going to actually try to share this out here. And we'll get going. Boom. All right, going to tweet this out, and we will... down here. Join here. All right, it's out. Thank you guys. As per usual, live. You guys can't fast forward to the recap or the chat questions. So if that's not your thing, I apologize, and I appreciate you sticking with me here nonetheless. So we're gonna go 57:08. Start UFC 286, baby. All right, UFC 286 in the house. We got Leon Edwards defending the title against Kamaru Usman for a rubber match, a rematch from their rematch. That makes sense. Is it still considered a rematch? If it is, Edwards is 1-0 in rematch, whereas Usman is 6-1 in rematches, 2-1, or 2-1 in rematches, I should say, 6-1 against UFC level southpaws. Of course, that one in both columns is the man we're gonna be breaking down himself, Edwards. Let's see. Let's get some odds here. Sure, we still have Usman still as a favorite considerably, which I have no issue with him being the designated favorite. Minus 245. Comeback on Edwards, plus 205 roughly, give or take, depending on where you look. As alluded to, as my publications have already put out, I ended up picking Edwards here. I didn't go on expecting to pick Edwards, and I do keep in mind whenever I do end up on the side, despite, I think my man Luca Fiore tweeted out, UFC champions going into immediate rematches after losing the title are 3-11 in those fights. They do lose more often than not. That's not the stat or the reason why I'm going off it. I just wanted to cite that stat because it's interesting, and as usual, shout sources as best I can. You know me, never afraid to give the old shout-a-roos there. Hopefully I'll be doing something with Lucas shortly too soon. It's just been chaotic on my end there, so apologies on that. But yeah, like aside from that, a lot of it's that recency bias, right? Like you just saw them win and you get taken in the moment. I think we probably all had a little bit of that battle and feeling with the Figueiredo Moreno, quadrilogy or however you want to call it, the 4 fights in a row. You're just like going back and forth, right, or whatever. So yeah, for this fight, I ended up going with Edwards. It was funny, and again, no issues with the scores or anything, but and I get it. It's so busy. Like, I don't want to watch tape anymore either. I get it. But like, cue the Dom Cruz meme. You didn't watch the tape, did you? Like, everybody's saying, like, oh, it was a dominant fight outside of the one head kick. I'm like, that's not true. It was built off of building bodywork, and I only clipped out a portion of it. I didn't even clip out all of it from the southpaw stance that he did throughout the fight. And he actually did it a bit from the orthodox stance, too. He did really good. Edwards he fought more out of orthodox than he usually does. He will switch. That isn't not new. But he did it much more, which was strange. And I thought was actually smart, and especially if you listen to takes. And again, I want to give credit. This isn't from my analysis. You won't find this in my analysis. But shout out to my guy Spencer Kite, who is just an excellent writer, interviewer, excellent dude in this space. I've had on this program before, I believe a couple times. He does these coaching articles, and he did one with my guy Sean Madden, who I obviously respect a lot, and striking Muay Thai MMA striking coach, and Eric Nixick, MMA coach. Obviously, Eric's my boy. But Eric had some good. They both had great analysis in that piece, and as far as this stuff goes, I think it was Eric. I'm pretty sure it was Eric that said, switching stances, would make Usman think about which legs to grab and this and that could definitely be a reason. I think that's really good analysis. Whereas my analysis, this is why it's also good to just bounce off of things and people. And if you are able to, I try to keep my filter clean for what I do, but for you guys, you can reference and get the best of all worlds, right? And get a bunch of different perspectives. So if you read my analysis, I will talk about that dynamic, but I talk about it more for the other side as far as switching stances, buys time and makes Usman more think about strikes. But yes, it would also make him think about, in turn, his offense more too. It's a very good point. And when Edwards goes orthodox even, he still kind of keeps in a bodybuilding theme. He's doing a lot of jabs, lead-handed jabs to the body. And then he's still kicking to the legs and stuff too, as well, from those stances. As well as, again, it also discounts. And some people are at least, remember the first round and will include that in their, kind of a broad brushing stereotype recap feels of the fight. But, and the fact that, Edwards clearly dominated the round and maybe could have came close to finishing the round if there wasn't as much glove grabbing going on, It was one of those things where I didn't realize it until the rewatch how much glove grabbing and cage grabbing Usman was doing, because again, classic I had a boss that said this, and I always related to it. Obviously, again, back to my luck with circumstantial timing, where I had an old construction foreman would be like, "Hey, don't take your breaks longer, by the way. Don't Chicago guy. Don't take your breaks longer, by the way. Because you go past the 15 minutes, right? Yeah, right." You're going to get caught, right? You're going to see everybody doing it Monday through Friday, but the time you do it, you'll get caught. So just don't do it because you're going to have that luck. And he would say that to kind of scare the guys, right? But for me, it worked because I'm like, oh, I am that guy. I would get caught. Yeah, I'm not going to take a longer break. So, that was kind of Leon Edwards when and it was a bad cage grab. It was a position altering one too. So, no shade to Herb, so to speak, I guess. But it was just kind of ironic that Edwards got called for it. And another note that even in the rounds that Usman clearly won, right, where there's no contesting from me or others. Another thing I noticed that literally every time they get into an over-under, one person has an overhook, one person has an underhook. I don't know if you'd classify this as a 50-50. 50-50 is labeled so many different things, especially in MMA and grappling context. But I call it an over-under tie-up in the clinch, right? Standing in the clinch, chest to chest, one underhook, one overhook. Leon won all of those. He was able to stymie Usman. He was able to create multiple clinch turns and get himself back into the center. Of course, his directionality and his, cagecraft, so to speak, was just kind of maddening because he just kept backing himself to the fence too easily. Again, if you look at my highlight of the building bodywork, most of it was off of neutral space or at least the front foot, right? Or at least neutral space and the front foot. But when he did get closed in on the clinch, he was able to win those tie-ups. In fact, in round 2, if you look, not only able to do that a lot and stymie a lot of that clinch stuff, but he actually uses the same move that Usman cribbed off of John Jones, that overhook wrist feed. He uses it like twice to get separations from Usman. He used his own stuff against him, and Usman didn't know what to do. Usman was able to get the fight to the ground and get some control time there, but those were either well timed or like that random fake in round 3 or 4 where like, are you like, what's wrong, Leon? Are you that checked out? You're really gonna let me get in on this dog? All right, I'll take it. And he just takes him down. Like, those were the kind of shots he got him down. It wasn't through the clinch. He did not have success in the clinch. And even when he got him down, and was attritional, and Leon was tired, and it was within rounds that were clearly scored for Kamaru, he didn't get a lot of damage off because Leon was like taking notes from a lot of fighters. He was taking the body work from Covington, that Covington had success with, and the leg work from RDA, but also from the RDA fight with Usman he took, was the fact that he could just kind of turtle up and get up because there was no back threat being established, no back take threat. That's something RDA figured out, and despite being tired, outworked, and probably taking that fight on short notice as they did to RDA, just to fork up so they could get a ranked contender, a name, a former title challenger, and these guys' resumes as they build them up. Unfortunately, the role RDA seemed to serve at that point, and since, even he was able to get up a former lightweight repeatedly. So Leon, in conjunction with some good wrist controls, because he's really good about fighting the hands, was able to get up and nullify a lot of the wrestling. So it becomes the elevation, The elevation got both guys, Sure, Leon might fight better, but maybe that also might mean Usman won't have his windows of lapses, right? It's like, well, was it just like saying it was just a lapse of concentration? Like, was it really just a lapse of concentration? Or was it a lot of factors piling into a chaotic MMA fight, folks? Probably the latter. And we're not going to have those factors. We will of altitude. We will have factors of hometown, right? There's the English crowd, which will support Leon and boo Kamaru, but it will also be a lot of pressure on Leon, a lot more media obligations, even though he seems a lot more stress-free and happy around this time. Is he too happy? You could go in you get lost in a speculation city once we go down that route. But these are all things that I do got to at least acknowledge. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that Leon has always been a better fighter than most people give credit for, which is why only some at that technical nerds would give him credit. Like myself, even though I didn't pick him last time I picked Usman. Let's be clear here. But you have a bit of that. You have, people still believing that, they were, Usman is still number 1 pound for pound, whether you even believed he was or not. I didn't have him there personally. That's not a knock on him. But whether people believe that wholeheartedly and are fans, so they're willing him to get back, or they just accepted and acknowledge / know him as one of those top guys, which is it's just fine if that's your opinion. I think holding on to that is what happens here, and now we go, okay, is he that guy? A, how much of that guy is he? B, right, which is usually the question I ask. And the more important question we should all ask, C, is how much is he of any guy still, right? This fight came off of uncertain injuries. He's been dealing with a lot of hand injuries. The guy's been dealing with, there have been some reporter was drilling him about his knee injury and stuff, and he was laughing because he's been dealing with that his whole career, and it's funny. And and no one ever asked the injuries that I know about that I've sat on for a minute. But again, I think these are old injuries. These are from sources that are older sources that don't train with him anymore. But I mean, just for example, hearsay. It wasn't even his knee. It was a femur. It actually is a femur issue, which sounds uber complicated to fix, right? I'm not going to speculate on what that is. Also, speaking of speculation or hearsay, I don't think he does anymore, so that's why I'll say it now. But there was a point where may or may not have been wearing kind of like a girdle thing to to keep your ribs and chest compacted. I don't know if there were sternum issues or rib issues. I'm just saying there are plenty of these stories. Half and most of them Kamaru himself acknowledges. So it's not throwing shade out there when you bring these things up. These are all realistic things. The guy is getting older, and even though he may not have as many MMA miles as Leon, he could arguably have more if you look at the 5-round fights and then you add in the wrestling, right? And what that does to your body, and how he admittedly trained really bad back in those days. That's what kind of destroyed his body in the ways he trained for wrestling. You know, he's over. Maybe he's been over accomplishing this whole time. I'm not saying he's not talented. Obviously he's talented. Obviously athletic. Obviously he is great. He is a great welterweight, Kamaru Usman. Don't get it twisted, folks. You know, but there's no biological free lunch. I know John Jones continues to get away with everything in and out of the cage for I don't know how many years now. He's a goddamn outlier. But outside of the outliers, you know, I don't know. So I'm going to go with Leon Edwards. Even though he could get the finish, I don't know. Like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if Usman wins. This is a fight that could go everywhere. And you're going to give me a guy, you know, 2-1 on a guy who's riding high after winning definitively and is the more dangerous finisher on the feet and on the floor. I'll take that, and I ended up taking Leon by decision. That's going to be my Pop Squad pick this week. I got it at plus 450 and a quarter unit. I have been adding these quietly throughout the week, folks. I just don't do teaser reminders because I just haven't had time. I barely have enough time to add the damn bets, right? But those of you who follow me on Action Network, I have been tracking all these. So I did 1 unit on Leon plus 210 I got him for, and then a quarter unit at plus 450 Edwards by decision. Because that was my official pick. I just feel like, you know, we could be in for another controversial decision across the pond, and that's not slight on. I actually think the English judges have their S together, arguably more than a lot of the North American regions. So it's not even. I don't even say that to diss the judges, but it's a crazy sport. It's a hard sport to judge, and even the best judges, as we've seen, turn in, you know, some interesting scorecards, right? For one, and for two. You know, whether we're talking about, you know, what, you know, it is, you know, MVP Lima, Bisping, Henderson 2, Hamill, Bisping. I don't know. That's just off the top of my head, and that's not even going into boxing, right? Like, how many crazy decisions have happened over in England, particularly? I'm just saying. So I'm not throwing shade for nothing here. Oh, stomach cramps here. I'm gonna push this breakdown. Gotta eat something. But yeah, no hate if you're on the Usman side. No one should be surprised if Usman wins, but I got Edwards by decision. Let's see if anyone had any questions on that fight before I push on. Ghost fan of the grappling and the pummeling and hand fighting from some of the positions were great to watch in Usman versus Edwards too. It was very. Grant, as funny as Drake is good. Yeah, it's a mystery to men there. Even without the head kick KO, I'm worried about Usman's chin, Kyle Johnson says. Burns dropped him bad, and Colby rattled him several times in their first fight. Yeah, he's not impervious, that's for sure. Good shouts there. All right, next fight, Rafael Fiziev, minus 225, Justin Gaethje, plus 175. Basically, this one should be settled standing. I was going to look at Cheeky and look at the totals, but I honestly, between the analysis and the lines, I felt like, you know what, let's just pull the trigger on a side. And I feel like this is meant for Fiziev to roll here. Fiziev, not just the more experienced technical striker or whatever you want to say, faster even by Gaethje's own admission. You know, he's got highlight material stuff too, obviously. He's younger. Arguably more athletic. I don't deny any of these things, but these aren't even the reasons why I'm picking Fiziev. A lot of it is just how they match up too. Fiziev works the legs and bodies, and even though Gaethje works the legs and body beautifully and brutally, his two-way streets are much more open to some one-way traffic as far as his defense goes. It's never been great. It's gotten better under the care of Whitman. But to the body and legs, most of those improvements were either guard there or not there, or how to work with a more looser guard, rolling and coming up, and more trunk movement and footwork movement based defenses. But as far as checking, body returns and stuff like that, not the same level for defense there. And Fiziev punctuates beautifully to the legs and particularly to the body, particularly with the switch kick, like many from Russian to Eastern European to everywhere in between, like the Azerbaijans or the, Kyrgyzstan, and just a lot of, when I stereotype that region of fighter and their kickboxing, lead hand savvy or lead stance savvy is usually not a thing that or is usually, something that comes in tow. It's not a surprise that guys are good off their left side or will finish and punctuate off their left side. Rashid Magomedov, Jan Blachowicz, I'm going from Dagestan to Poland here. And I don't know if he secretly favors his left like Jan Blachowicz, but like Jan Blachowicz, Fiziev will also shift to southpaw. And he's been doing that more often. And I was actually really impressed going back to watch. A lot of times when someone switches stances, you got to press them on a certain stance. John Crouch, for many reasons, such a good coach and corner that doesn't get enough credit, but was rewatching Nelson vs. Story, and he was like, hit him when he goes southpaw on you, and something I've always preached on this as a southpaw. When someone tries to get cute, even if they're a air quote normal switch stance fighter, well, southpaw's my stance, motherfucker. If you're a dedicated southpaw, and I don't care if it's a dedicated switch stancer, they go southpaw, you make sure you let them know you own that stance. You have the advantage. Because most times you can gamble that you will, because most times people's defense aren't as good in southpaw / their offhand stance. Boy, did Fiziev's defense look almost better from southpaw when facing a dedicated, decent southpaw in Rafael freaking Dos Anjos, right? I was really impressed with that. Also, Fiziev has things, he also does timing change-ups and is fast, which is nightmare for fighters like Gaethje and Oliveira. Of course, I went back to crib notes and read and refresh myself off my last written piece, which would be, for me, Gaethje's fight with Oliveira. That was his last fight, right? And in that fight, I talked about in that breakdown how both guys have noted vision issues. They both wear glasses. And they both, whether it's inside parries, hitting hard counters, or single collar ties, right? Both of them. They are really particularly dangerous when they have a feel for where their opponent is. Surprise, surprise, right? So when you're looking at it, it's like guys who have timing change-ups are going to be real dangerous, The sneaky check hook, even though he's not really a timing change-up guy, Makhachev, but that sneaky check hook fucks up all timings as a southpaw. And even though Fiziev doesn't really have that shot, he is from a dedicated southpaw stance. He's got a lot of checking and countering hooks from both sides in both stances. And again, his defense is good off of both sides. And back to that lead side savvy, not just for the body stuff, which is, again, body. Fiziev's main thing is knees and knees in clinch or close quarters. From Alvarez to who else was it? Apologies. It's not Oliveira. We were just talking about him. Like, those have been a really potent tool on Gaethje. I talked about that even before the Oliveira fight, and there they were, right? All his tools match up really badly for Gaethje, basically, for him to get hit, whether he's coming forward, more particularly off the counter. Gaethje will fight smarter now, but I feel like Fiziev will press him if he does that. I feel like if Gaethje fights wild, Fiziev will let him come and look for the counters. So I feel like any combination of both those and any neighborhood that it falls in between those, I feel like we get a finish, which is why I don't blame anybody betting on the under, especially if you give Gaethje's chances more respect than I do. Not that I'm disrespecting his chances at all, by the way, but I'm just saying if you are more confident than I, somebody who is both picking and playing Rafael Fiziev to win by knockout. But the main shot that I see happening is something that I haven't really seen tax before. We could have maybe have seen it, even though Barbosa mainly goes to the body with his left switch kick. And Johnson, although I picked him to light him up as a southpaw, and he did, doesn't really throw the head kicks that often, right? is the head kick here. Death, taxes, and wrestle boxers dipping to their power side. Shout out to Ghost Phantom, who, was just replied on Twitter with a picture of Trevor Whitman teaching fighters to dip to that power side. Hopefully they change that up for the Leon Edwards, right? With the southpaw kick. Again, another reason why it wasn't as fluky to me. Because you guys know, this is something that I've been preaching forever. I called it out before. Speaking of Anglicus on the previous Bellator card, when he fought Nemkov in my breakdown there. Death, taxes, and wrestle boxers dipping into lead kicks from the southpaw side. From the leader southpaw side, I'm sorry. Nemkov, another guy, Russian fighter. Good lead kick. Surprise, surprise. Again, I'm not pulling this out of my ass, folks. It's there. That is a theme in this card, possibly. And I think that Gaethje's going to get head kick KO'd. It's going to be pretty brutal. So I played Fiziev by knockout at plus 120. I didn't get a great number on it, but I put 1.5 units on it. And I'm moving on from there. My guy goes Phantom speaking. He goes, I think Fiziev's left high kick to end combos will also be a problem for Gaethje, he says. Okay, we're on the same page. Ghost Phantom says, and Justin Gaethje is very susceptible to body work as seen in Oliveira fight when he got by. Yep, yes, sir. I agree wholeheartedly. Kyle Johnson, I feel like Gaethje is going wild, like round 3 Bobby Green versus Fiziev. Is his best action to stay to stay technical. That I agree. Ironically, him getting wild might actually be his best action here. I actually oddly agree there. All right, next fight. We touched on it slightly there. Gunnar Nelson there. He doesn't work with Kavanaugh anymore. I was hearing the Irish voice. Gunnar Nelson minus 375. Brian Bam Bam Barberina stepping in on just over 3 weeks' notice. Plus 280 stepping in for southpaw Daniel Rodriguez. Like Gunnar said, nice enough for the UFC to at least give him another southpaw. Gunnar Nelson, of course, is... Got to pull up my my schmrecket here. Let's see if I can go to it on the... Alright. Gunny Nelson there. Gunny Nelson. Where the fuck are you, Gunnar? Where the fuck are you? He's 3-3 opposite UFC level southpaws. Wins over Zach In Your Face is where I'm Cummins. I don't know. Isn't that his nickname? It is now. Joban and Sato lost to Story, Maya, and Edwards. Common threaded losses were excellent grapplers. Poor Zach. Sorry. That was gross. So, off of that, sounds like I should be making the easy and safe pick and picking Gunnar Nelson to just replicate what we saw last time that happened to Brian Barberina. For some reason, I was thinking I picked Brian Barberina, but no, I was just eating so much shit and took a really bad loss that night, and I felt so stupid for picking RDA by KO instead of by sub in the small cage. It was just really stupid of me. So that fight just always feels like a loss, even though I got the pick right and by finish and everything, but not the right finish, right? So it was interesting though. Barberina. That being said, I didn't pick him for sub for partly a reason, because usually he's harder to sub than that. He really made more back exposure. Usually if he gives up the back, that's really the only time, really. You go back to his Colby Covington fights, and I spoke to Covington after that fight, and he said, this was the point where Covington, before he fought Maya, for what it was worth, he said the hardest guy to wrestle was Brian Barberina. He didn't fight Usman at this point, but this is for what it's worth. This is right before he's fighting Maya. Me speaking of Colby, okay? But Barberina always uses his back. He's diligent. Again, back to John Crouch. John Crouch really trains his fighters well there. Again, unless it's the aforementioned Damian Maia versus Rick Story, it's tough, And Rick Story uses the similar get-ups successfully against Gunnar, a more prime Gunnar Nelson 10 years ago, and when they fought, right? Brian Barberina, oddly enough, when Benson Henderson fought RDA, he was in the corner for that as well, which is cool, but, again, maybe not so cool, because, again, he's 0-1 in those kind of fights, coming off one, right, where he got choked out, which is what Gunnar Nelson's going to want to do. So I get it. All the signs are there, but, again, that was an uncharacteristic belly out from Barberina, and going to listen to interviews, in particular. Apparently, he was really disappointed in himself too. Was bitter, like he doesn't usually do that, and he owned up to it. Like he took accountability, like you want to hear, right? And was like, "That's my mistake." But basically, he said that it's on me. But basically, what happened was. He went in there and not expecting RDA to grapple. He had the same mindset I was. He just came in there with that blind spot. I should have known better. He should have known better. We all should have known better on that wrong side, right? Well, I wasn't on Barberina's side, but you get what I mean. Wrong about the prediction to a T. And he didn't expect that and paid a real bad price for it. And I know he's not working with the MMA lab ahead of this camp and hasn't been since he's been down at Tennessee/North Carolina. But who is in North Carolina in that Jimmo area? You got, I think, the Salty Dog guys over our neighboring gym, but the Jimmo area, I believe, has guys like, speaking of back take specialists, I believe dudes like, what's his name? Just one. Joe Selecki, the second coming of Kenny Florian there. Joe Selecki. Some high-end wrestlers. I think he's got like Weidman, other guys to work with. I think even other old MMA lab guys like Scott Holtzman and whatnot, who, for what it's worth, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, trained with the similar get-ups and those things in tow, and was working specifically on shoring the holes. Now, not a lot of times to shore holes, but he even admitted that himself, but he just seems so confident that he learned something. Whether he is improved or not, I do expect him to fight better. I don't know how much you can ever bank on someone to improve that much between fights at this point in their career. He is not as late in his career as Gunnar Nelson, which is the thing that's jumping out to me. Again, I'm usually not the fade, the older guy thing, but I feel like we're right there. I feel like Gunnar Nelson's going to get old overnight kind of a deal, and it might not be this time. He could very well win this one. He's saying that he actually wasn't injury-free, which wasn't always the case, which is very interesting, right? Again, he's not necessarily the biggest, even with the reframe strength and conditioning he did a few years ago. He's still not necessarily the biggest welterweight himself. If you look, whether it was in both victory or defeat, victories in Cowboy Oliveira fight, or defeat, as in his Leon Edwards fight, people who throw elbows at him do really well. Also, both those fights, people who get on top of Gunnar Nelson usually ground and pound the crap out of him. Like Damian Maia probably could have ground and pounded him if that was Damian Maia's game. Instead, Damian Maia out-grappled him for the win. But Gunnar seems to be a real specialty from front headlock to back tape kind of a dude. And he's got some wrestling tricks, and he can hit a well-timed shot, perhaps still maybe. Most of his are against the clinch and in the fence, but that's also where Barberina is strongest from. Gunnar Nelson's takedowns are deceptively agile looking, but they're not necessarily drivingly powerful or athletic. So it's going to be really interesting. Barberina's, again, he's always been comfortable in the scramble, If he does get submitted, it's going to be a similar scenario. It's going to be the back take and him giving back exposure. I don't think it'll be like the guillotine like with Joe Ban. Because, again, not to play this game, but if you go back at Gunnar Nelson's record, it's not as impressive as you make it look because the Joe Ban fight, Joe Ban was, one fight away from, a retirement, I believe, at that point or something, or on his way out, clearly. I love Joe Ban. Already showed to be chinny and got rocked before, getting, he didn't even know where he was at when the choke came. But you look at it, he wasn't able to get Sato out of there, right? Loses to Gilbert Burns on short notice. Burns took that fight on short notice, by the way. Burns probably would have finished him if it wasn't. This was when Burns was just coming into the division. And that was only Gunnar Nelson's second fight. The guy's only fought once in 3.5 years, folks. That's crazy, right? Loses to Leon Edwards. It goes down as a split, but it was not a split. It was a clear unanimous decision. He beats Alex Oliveira, but guys, I love Alex Oliveira, but not only is Alex Oliveira going to his crazy losing streak after this, it kind of already started right around this period. Even when they're announcing him, Alex Oliveira has a look. He literally does this when they announce him. He gives a shrug I don't know what I'm doing here. The dude who has multiple alimony payments and babies from another mother and is trying to open up his own plantation and was clearly just showing up for paychecks, right? This is the era that he got him out of there. And in that fight, he almost lost because Calvo was cheating like hell, granted, which he always does. But he elbows the crap out of Gunnar Nelson. Again, just throwing elbows at him, like, from any position, it feels like you do damage to Gunnar. It's the craziest thing in the world. Close quarters, Ponzinibbio messes him up in close quarters with punches, obviously. But again, these off-the-break shots. He beats Joe Ban. Now we're talking about half a decade ago, if we're going to his second submission win in the last half decade. Again, it's Joe Ban on his way out. Was out on his feet and got guillotined. By the way, Brian Barberena survived fighting Warley Alves and without getting guillotined. And he also fought... who else has the mean front headlock that he fought? Vicente Luque, who had his back and front of his neck. And was not submitted there for what it's worth. You know what I'm saying? This guy is very tough to submit. Not saying he can't be submitted, but I think... I don't think it's going to be the front chokes. Watch, he's going to get submitted by a front choke now, and this will get clipped. Albert Tumanov, went on he lost after that, lost to Leon Edwards, I believe, and then went on a winning streak outside the UFC quietly. But it's been weird management. It's a weird winning streak. It's not as impressive as it might look on paper if you really look deeper into it on some of those fights there. So it's really hard to say, and the guy never really showed a ground game, right? Tumanov's just a boxer, right? Loses to Damian Maia. Okay, so now we get to another submission win. Now we're all the way back in 2015, UFC 189. Brandon Thatch. Okay, that didn't really age well. Lost to Rick Story. Zach Cummings, which didn't really age well, no offense to Cummings. He hung around, but this was like him coming in. I believe he came in on short notice, as well as like Omari Akhmedov, who came in on short notice on those like Ireland or Europe cards. And yeah, DeMarcus Johnson. I mean, I don't know. There is a level of guys that he's getting out of there, let's just say, not to be too unfair in that game. And if we want to play the game of, I don't know what it is offhand, but I know that Barberena's takedown defense number is really low, and Gunnar's is really high, or not high, but higher, or whatever. I will say this was really frustrating. I have notes here. It's probably 7 or 8, but I'm gonna round down conservatively. I'm gonna downgrade. I'm gonna give benefit of the doubt. I counted at least 6 takedown attempts that weren't counted. Again, I talk about it all the time, especially with leg kicks and takedowns. Pretty much anything, even control time. By the way, go to Makwan, Jason Knight. They completely fucked up the control time on who they credit control time in those rounds. They're giving all the control time to Knight, even though he was like on his back and stuff. There's at least, and I didn't even go over every Gunnar fight. I went over all the southpaw fights, and I went over a majority of his fights where he's scoring takedowns and getting the submissions. Okay, I counted at least 6 failed takedowns, which you feel free to do the math, but I only counted 1 accredited the other way that they didn't count. So however that averages out, it's not the number that's posted, which is why people who base it off of stats, it's silly. You're drawing off of a well of inaccurate, faulty information. It's not fucking correct. It's wrong. It fucking wastes my time because, believe me, I wish it was right, because then I wouldn't have to spend the time, just like Matt Damon, Good Will Hunting here. I'm fucking lighting my cigarette as I light all the work on fire. So I wouldn't have to watch you guys fuck it all up. No, I wouldn't have to sit here and rewatch the fights to be able to tell you guys this. But unfortunately, you can't trust the stats, so I have to take the time to look at the stats as a reference guide and then actually go and do the damn work. It's fantastic. Anyways, so in other words, Gunnar's the rightful favorite. This is a fight going to be like, it's like Jones and Gane in the sense of whoever wins, the other side's going to look really stupid, right? Especially if Gunnar wins. I'm going to look really stupid here. But I can't help myself, man. I cannot help myself. There's always at least, I think, who was it? Was it Jonathan Pierce last time? JSP! That's all I want you to know. I was like, okay, we're in England. What are you doing? Holding your American flag. Carlos Condit knocking out Dan Hardy. All these cards, there's always one just obnoxiously American person with a flag, right? Fucking that upsets the English crowd, right? It's gonna be Barberena this time. Hopefully, we'll see. We'll see if it is. He's not He's not ignorant or abrasive or anything. I appreciate the guy. He seems like a good dude. But he'll definitely bring the American flag and represent, though. You know what I'm saying? If he scores big, I know that's right. They can't bring flags anymore. But whatever, you know what I mean. He might be the American that upsets here. So I'm actually going to take Barberena. But here's how I played it. Here's my fortification. That's the key word: fortification. Not all matchups can you fortify, right? Call for it, and even matchups that I would argue this one does. Nothing is bulletproof. Nothing is guaranteed. And there are no locks in this game. Don't let anybody tell you there's different. But listen, I actually ended up playing the under here for the total. Nelson Barberena under 1.5 plus 140. I honestly would have paid the chalk. I saw it listed at plus number for under 2.5, but all of the houses scrambled, took it off the board, and readjusted to 2.5ers. And to protect themselves, I think. Which is annoying, although I would have still probably bought the one minus 135 chalk for the under 2.5. That would have probably still been better. But no, my house that I play at offered a 1.5 at plus 140, so I jumped on that to protect me from the obvious outcome here, which is Gunnar Nelson getting a submission. And even though Brian Barberena is more of a late finisher guy, a round 2, round 3 type of guy, shout out to Master of Love, round 3 special coming your way. There is a possibility. He's a violent mother effer, right? There is a possibility he can finish under as well. He's done it before with punches, with elbows, right? Barberena can get down as well. He can bang more than he looks. He can take more than he looks. He's more skillful than what he looks, right? He's more better than what he looks at the end of the day. So what I did was I put 1 unit on the under, 1.5. So if Gunnar chokes him out, that's 140. And then my plan was to sprinkle the 0.17U round 2 and 3, which I'm going to do, but it's not out yet. My Bet Online house has it, but they have shitty numbers, and I'm almost going to guarantee that BetMGM is going to put better round prop numbers out. Maybe they have them right now. As of before the podcast, recording podcast, they didn't. So I'm probably going to wait there. But my logic there is the round flyers or whatever, if I keep that within 40 ducats, the 0.4, that means if Gunnar subs them early, I still profit. I still profit. I still get a unit, right? I still can take a clean unit. That being said, I did on the Bet Online house do a little Barberena. What is it? Oh no! Wait. What the fuck? Oh, yeah, no, I'm talking about Shore, I guess. Shore, they don't have it for round 2 and round 3. They did have Barberena round 2 and round 3. I am on that already. My bad. Plus 1,200, 0.17U, and round 3 plus 1,800, 0.17U. I'm already on it. And you put the 0.2, that's 32. So, yeah, I mean, if Gunnar subs them, I still profit, right? Barberena finishes early, we double profit. But I got the Barberena round 2 and round 3 to clean up whatever the 1.5 total misses, because my logic is if it gets past a round and a half and Barberena's still around, something went wrong for Gunnar. Barberena is not the type of guy to let you backpack him. He may make a stupid move, as we saw, unfortunately, and give you the sub. Unfortunately, that is on the bingo board more than we realized it was, or at least I did. But good news is for the fortification, and the thinking in line with this betting fortification is that he is wild enough where he's going to make something happen, and which means, because, and that's the thing, he hasn't faced a specialist grappler like this, but at the same time, no matter all the different styles that he has faced, you can't have a conservative fight with this guy, as far as, being worried about betting the under. Like, the guy's going to force action, even though he's a tough guy to get out of there, and he's a more of a late finisher. But he can be subbed. So if it's longer than a round and a half, I think something went wrong for Nelson with the pace and violence that is literally inherent with every Barberena fight. The only, I would also look at Barberena live after round 1 if he is backpacked, but he can't get finished, or he gets close to being finished. Maybe there's an even bigger number on Barberena. At that point, maybe take a shot live. I won't be able to either because I'm doing live commentary or because my computer sucks at placing live bets, apparently. But that's something to look out for. Part of me was also thinking about maybe doing a calculated risk, maybe on the money line, and digging into some of those potential profits, right? for the under on how you fortify that. So regardless if I do live or a small calculated bet on the money line, if it gets even higher on Barberina, I like this fortification of playing the under, whether you're 2.5 or 1.5. 2.5 less of a payout, but a little more coverage in a way, right? But yeah, under 1.5 one unit, and then 0.17 little round flyers for Barberina to clean up in round 2 and round 3. All right, before we get there, Johnson, that's done. James Kendrick, do you feel like if you take away Gunner's takedowns, he becomes less effective in striking? Yeah, he only throws one shots and stuff. And again, Barberina has been hurt before. That Jason Witt fight, jumps out in my mind, and that stretch really gave Barberina a bad name, which is how I was able to profit him against Lawler and Matt Brown. Is because of that stretch. But we have to remember, he went through moving his camp across the country, changing his whole life around. COVID happens to help change your whole life around. Those alone are crazy 1-2 punches that are going to show themselves in a career, possibly. But the more important 1-2 punches that happen during the same time window of those two things that are relevant, and in that recent stretch that everybody points to, was the guy had a back surgery, which is alone a huge, thing. He's like, are you going to be able to come back from, right? First off, and then 2, emergency laparotomy, which reportedly, first reports were he wasn't going to be able to come back to fighting, and still did. So he had to defy the odds on 2 fronts. So is that a red flag? Sure, but for as bad as he looked, and we can all agree, I can maybe defend it, maybe not go as hard as the proverbial you out there, but we can all agree he looked bad in that stretch. But we can also all agree he looked better. The results sure as shit don't lie. I know the last result was bad, but the results sure as shit don't lie. The guy is both looking physically better, talking, training more, getting better results. I mean, yeah, maybe we cut him some slack for having major back surgery, or almost dying with an emergency laparotomy, having to relocate your camp, farms, family multiple times amidst the pandemic. Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of a lull in there, folks. It's not like you, or many other breakdown podcasts hasn't pointed that out when other fighters just switch camps alone. Not even all the other stuff. Just switching camps alone, right? I'll bring it up with Vittori training at Extreme Couture, right? Spoiler alert, probably still picking Vittori and stuff, but that is something you have to acknowledge. Is there an adjustment period? Yeah, maybe we cut Barberina a little slack. I don't know. Kyle Johnson, Jimmo has both John Salter and Chris Honeycutt for wrestling. Oh yeah, Honeycutt. He also worked with Coach Neil Melanson too, so not bad. Very hard to trust either Gunner or Barbs though. Yeah. Except one of them is almost a 4-to-1 chalk price. They want you to trust them at. That's the difference there. Kyle Johnson says Tumanov easily Gunner's best win. Would have been top 15 if he stayed in the UFC. Yeah, I was really bummed to lose Tumanov. You guys know I might not have sounded like it, but I was a big Tumanov guy too, so it's just tough. Rogue Pierogi, new metal out here catching strays. Yeah, apologies to the new metal crowd. I don't hate it all, man. It's nostalgic for me. I almost appreciate it in that sense. So he says Dana's ridiculous affinity for new metal is his only redeeming trait. Love you, Dan. Appreciate you, Rogue. Oh my gosh. All right, let's push on. Hopefully faster through these. The one main card fight I haven't gotten to look at, but I got to look at right after this because I have to have all my stuff done early. Hopefully get my eyes enough rest time before tomorrow's doctor's appointment. Again, Extreme Couture bias, so I don't know how much analysis and stuff. I wasn't really looking to target these fights, so I did look into the Elite Vittori one just before we finished here, actually. But I did not look into yet for Casey O'Neill minus 185, Jennifer Maia plus 150. Casey O'Neill, what did she open as? I'm going to pick O'Neill here, but this feels like dog or pass from a betting perspective. I like O'Neill, aside from the fact that she's Extreme Couture. I've been watching her rehab and doing the due diligence and stuff. She's really been busting her butt. So I really wouldn't worry about the injury part of the layoff so much. It's more just Maia not usually being undervalued. I've taken a couple dog shots on Maia before for that reason, so I don't blame anybody here. This is a fight where even if you're picking Casey O'Neill, I would just be careful investing in any chalk here. You know what I'm saying? Team Casey O'Neill here, though. Oh, wow. Again, jeez. Despite having, like, a slew of... Let me pull it up here just to make sure. 145, 125, 155. Yeah, despite having a slew of lightweight fights on the prelims, we open in the middleweight division because God forbid, you know, Joe Silva, why would we need, you know, pacing on a card, high quality to back the name brand that you claim, high quality for the fans, entertaining fights, well-rounded fights with finishes and fun decisions, fights that are meaningful, fights that, God forbid, make you raising the price of pay-per-views for the umpteenth time to where it's almost $100 to watch one, yet you're going to throw 3 in nearly a month and a half while you're burning the rest of us out. God forbid you want to make any of us feel like we paid our money's worth. No, why would you do any of those things? It's not like you're running a business. Oh, that's right, because everything is already bought and paid for, and they don't give a fuck about their buys, promoting talent, etc. As much as they like to say. That's right, baby. It's Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze kicking off your main card. Woohoo! I mean, Marvin Vettori, minus 275, Dolidze, plus 210. This almost feels like dog or pass. I'm going to pick Vettori here for a decision after a very weird fight, after a very tentative and weird first round, because he's going to be waiting for Dolidze to do his stuff that he's expecting him to do. And then it's not going to work, and Vettori is going to be the better wrestler, and it's going to be up to his fight IQ and if he can square up in a guard. I don't know what the heck was going on with Jack Hermanson. I know Vettori was leg hooking, which not a lot of guys do because it's taught against in MMA because you can sit on the glove. I like it for a leverage point when attacking from bottom, looking to swing my hips. But, like, is one of those things that just... And again, far be it for me to tell Jack Hermanson of all people, but it's like, I remember even just like as a kid, like watching golf or certain things where it was just like there's certain fundamentals that you got taught and you would see, and you would have, you know, people in pros tell you like these things, whether it was basketball or golf, and like you could watch these things and be like, oh yeah, I see what these trainers and stuff mean by these are important, but not necessarily everybody does them. Is squaring up in the freaking guard, like what Jack Hermanson, like even before the finishing sequence or whatever, like in the first round, it's one of the stupidest sweeps that he gets, Dolidze gets, and he kicks him off. He swings for an armbar and gets like the most ugliest. There's a lot of names for it, like I've heard it called like flower sweep, you know. I don't know why I always want to go Jewish with it, and like it reminds me like you're like rocking like a dreidel. And you know, you go for the arm bar and you sweep them over to the arm bar side where they have no posts. You sweep them over to the arm you're attacking. But yeah, like just Jack Hermanson just stays like perpendicular. It's like they're playing Twister and Vettori, and he's trying to coach Vettori to make a T rather than squaring up to make a straight line with him. Like it was bad. He was really asking for that. So I don't know, man. I don't think he's gotten his black belt yet, but I believe he is a brown belt under Cobrinha, and he's been one for a minute, Vettori. So the guy knows how to grapple. Guy knows how to wrestle for MMA. So and he does it fairly conservatively. He's very positionally strong. So as long as he leans on those, he should be able to get a decision. And he is unkillable. But as unkillable as he is, there's something about Dolidze that, especially at this run, it feels like he can just kind of kill everybody. You know, like he's the guy from Untouchables. You know, the hitman. You know, after the elevator murder, and he writes in the elevator touchable. Like that is Dolidze, right? You know, you're like, where'd my girlfriend go? And he's like, touchable. Sorry, inside joke there. The same deal. He's that guy in all facets, apparently. Jesus Christ. I look like a fucking wreck over here. So I'm going to go with Dolidze. Next fight, I actually researched, and we'll have a betting piece, part of the extra stuff I did this week. Again, grateful to do it. You should be seeing a betting column for this come out. But, hey, you guys might be getting it sooner than later because you're tuning in live. Jack Shore, minus 550. Mahwan Amirkhani, plus 390. Taking Shore here. Surprise, surprise. Line is a little bit wide. I knew I wanted to play, but like this is what I was alluding to earlier. The round props are weird on Bet Online, so I'm waiting for BetMGM to try to get some better round props. But again, the lines are wide and kind of making you take a side. Like, unless you have a ton of chalk or are at a house / you want to / are a parlay player, there's like 3 ifs there, then maybe just go, if minus 210 is within your budget, for fight doesn't go to the distance, you could say that is the safest bet. But for me, I'm going to go with Shore and pick a side. I'm not trying to get cheeky with the under because Shore, I feel like, is going to finish later. Makwan's going to be strong and want to imply his strength. Whether he can or can't, he will anyways because that's Makwan, and that's also what the mentality of both he's been fighting with lately, which is Makwan of old, as well as the mentality that I would gamble most would have when facing a guy coming up a division. I want to big brother this guy from the jump. I want to put doubt and make him think he made the wrong decision from the jump, right? And that's what he should be doing, and that's what Makwan, that's how he's programmed to fight. But I watched how Jack Shore does get-ups, and I know he just got subbed, but again, it was a submission kind of like the Gunner Joban. Like, he was out on his feet first before the sub happened. Like, he didn't even know where he was. And that was against a good guy too, Ricky Simon, vato. But I was watching the way Jack Shore gets up, and he's got incredible get-ups, whether he's like double unders with a head tight to the chest, using butterfly guards to get up, using the fence, using wrist controls. He's got a lot of very safe while still creative and flexible ways to stand up and rebase, which I really like, and it's probably going to come in handy. The fact that he, despite being gangly, not athletic or built, can still scramble with the best of them at 135, because he's going to have one of the best scramblers here at 145. So good that I was trying to go through, and I didn't comb through every inch, but I looked through every rock that seemed relevant for this fight and for what I'm about to say. But I could not find people like riding Amir Khani's back, which is Jack Shore's main finishing position. He also gets he has a knack for landing some of those like Roman Dolidze, Kyle Dukakis knees in the clinch, right? He is finally fighting to his length, even though I don't mind a tall guy who fights in the clinch. He's finally, Shore, fighting more to his length, showing that past kickboxing experience that he spoke of, really attaching crosses and kicks from the lead side, especially off of his long jab, which I really like to see, or those timing change-ups off of a 1-2, kind of like a little bit of a slower Nate Diaz, if you will, reminds me of. I think that in particular will be good against that open stance match, classic down the pike open stance match right there. But counter right hands seem to be a problem for both guys. So the check right hook will be a shot to look out for Amir Khani. And Amir Khani just needs that one opening. So if you're betting Shore, you're going to be holding your breath for that first minute to minute and a half. But I think he survives the storm. Listen to an interview. Shout out to Pete C. Carroll and his new podcast that my guy Abby Subban did the artwork for. He had an interview with Shaky Shore, Jack's dad. And listening to the thought and how long they've been pushing. And even in victories, the reason why they've been pushing him to go up because he's been having bad weight cuts. And by Jack and his father's own admission, bad performances, even in the victories. They're not just saying it because of the loss. Hell, Jack was so stubborn, he even tried to book a bantamweight fight after that loss. So it wasn't a simple, let's go find the answers in a new weight class. I know he's not the biggest guy. He was a big bantamweight, but he's not the biggest as far as muscly, imposing, athleticism. And perhaps that may cause him a hard ceiling at featherweight. But stylistically, this just feels like a really good match for him. I'd be careful dumping out on the sub money, which is probably why sub is slightly more value, plus 200, what I'm seeing over plus 175 KO, which is smart and where it probably should be because it's probably more likely to get a stoppage of sorts. Makwan hasn't been sub since real early in his career. Again, he doesn't really give position. So he'll shell up into a ball and let you pound him out, but he won't really give up chokes or anything. So instead of having to choose, Parker, I laid the chalk on. I got a bad line. You could have got this as low as like even money pretty much at minus 110. But even at minus 140, I saw value, and I played it for 1.4. Shore inside the distance, that is minus 140. 1.4 units to win 1 unit. And I'm going to sprinkle on round 2 and 3 at BetMGM when they come out. However, even though there are bad round props that I don't want to support on Bet Online with my money, they did have the round method props there. So I did take a small little stab at round 3 TKO at plus 1,000. Jack Shore there for 0.17 units. And I will plug in and track, as per usual, the rounds 2 and 3, whatever I officially lay down there. Let's go. We'll do chat cleanup after. I'm going to push through the last of these pretty fast. Chris Duncan versus Omar Morales. I don't know why he's down at 145. Makes no sense. This is a close, tight fight. I don't know who I'm going with here, man. I was going to be leaning with Omar. Maybe I'll still pick Omar. But Chris Duncan sounds really confident coming in. He is going to be killed. Maybe there's some angles there. I didn't look. So check me at Dan Tom MMA on Fight Day to see if I ended up going with Omar. Sam Patterson minus 275. Anal Ajimov. I don't know if that's his nickname, but it is now. Comeback is Jesus, Dan. It's not as bad as the Zach Cummings nickname. Let's be honest. Jesus, Zach. Plus 225. I have no idea what the hell is going on with this fight. Shout out to my guy Billy Ward, by the way. Great follow. I gave him a shout the other week because someone you should follow. Solid analysis, solid reference point in the space. He used to fight, for God's sakes, man. I'm not talking about stupid amateur stuff like me and got my ass kicked, no, Billy Ward actually fought. Shouts to him. And also shouts to him because we both were taking dibs on some last-minute assignments they needed to divvy up this week for Old Action Network there. And I was like, I wasn't even planning to look at this fight, and I was planning to bet Shore Americani. Can you please take that one, and I'll take Shore? And he's like, he was a good sport. So, shout out to you, Billy. We got Muhammad Makhayev minus 800, Jalel Filio plus 550. Yeah, I will, spoiler alert, probably pick Makhayev, but I did not look into this fight and don't look to care to bet it, especially at these numbers. Lerone Murphy minus 185 versus Gabriel Santos plus 150. I kind of wanted to look into this one because Santos seems like a really good fighter, and I don't blame people taking a flyer there. I will probably still pick Lerone Murphy. Lerone Murphy, by the way, you won't see him on the Southpaw report because even though he fights a lot of Southpaw, he switches and lists himself orthodox. I am still getting around to Malcolm Gordon, who I believe is 1-1 against Southpaws. Lost to Sumaderji, beat Francisco Figueiredo. He is an underdog at plus 325 with a comeback on Jake Hadley, minus 450. We'll probably end up picking Hadley, but I'm like tempted. It feels like a dog or pass spot as far as a gambling perspective goes. Even though he did beat one Southpaw, Francisco Figueiredo, if memory serves, he still got rocked in that fight. I haven't went back to watch it, but I probably will have to for the Southpaw report. So that'll probably be like one of the last things added to there. So stay tuned for that one. Joanne Wood, minus 175. She'd be like my favorite like WMMA fighter back in the day, like before she got to the UFC. Luana Carolina, plus 145. Joanne should win this fight, but she's looked so uninspiring lately, not to be a dick, just being honest, that it is hard to support her, to pick her with confidence. I will pick her because she still throws spinning stuff. I believe her last finish against Valerie Letrano, pretty good, huh? Came at 125 before it was like a division. They fought at 125, one of those weird fights that happened down in Florida. And she, can throw some spinning stuff because she does that, and she comes from some Muay Thai, right? And spinning stuff did knock out Luana Carolina, who was quietly making a comeback in that Molly McCann fight. Molly McCann, Fochanel. I'll take Joanne Wood, but I probably am going to stay away. It feels like a dog or pass spot. Christian Leroy Duncan, minus 225. Sorry for your ears there. Versus Dusko Todorovic, or Dusky Toads, as my guy Brad calls him, or as Best Fight Odds calls him, Turko Todorovic, which is ultimately the question: do we get Dusko Todorovic or do we get Turko Todorovic, who just like tries to out wrestle and fails while all our unders go by the wayside to Jordan Wright? That was definitely Turko Todorovic. Not trying to be mean. I'm just get what I'm saying here. You don't know which one's going to show up. Who knows who I'll pick? I'll probably end up. I'm sure that guy's favored for a reason. We'll see. If I'm just pretty burnt out on my guy Dusko, but we'll see, man. We'll see. We'll see where I end up there. I probably won't be putting any money on it. Speaking of Best Fight Odds and their weird R's, we've got Rudovit Klein minus 210. Rudovit with an R reminds me of Ryoto Machida back in the MMA linker days. Anyone old school around? Anyone get that reference? Huh? 2007, 2008, MMA linker. Anyways, Ryoto Machida. Rudovic Klein minus 210. Jai Herbert plus 165. I like Klein the southpaw here. I got to go into Jai Herbert southpaw report. He obviously is 0-1, I believe, offhand, losing to Grandpa Masa Randubic-Ronaldo, but he was piecing Grandpa up in the beginning, so I want to go see what went right and what went wrong, and we'll add that to the report before fight time. But probably we'll pick Klein. Juliana Miller, minus 450. Veronica Macedo, now known as Veronica Hardy. Congratulations to her. And Dan, plus 340. Not sure where her game has improved. Not sure what to count on. I like Veronica, believe me, but I will probably be picking Juliana Miller here. Do not be surprised. How did we do on time? 1:59. Ooh, just under 2 hours. Gonna clean up the chat and then recap my stuff and get the fuck out of here. Kyle Johnson says, Joe Silva always made the third/middle fight on the pay-per-view a lightweight prospect showcase. I remember guys like Roger Huerta. Yeah, he found room to like open the fight with 145 and 155 and then still have room for another lightweight fight because guess what? They were really good. Remember him using, and he would use that for the swing bouts too. Remember like back in the day, like Kenny Florian, Alvin Robinson that came on after the main event? Lightweight swing bout, you know? Again, if you're gonna use these guys like slaves, at least make your product better. You know, give them some love. Kyle Johnson says Shore has a similar build / style to Mavlar Evloev, another bantamweight featherweight convert. So I feel he'll fit right in. Interesting. I am curious to see. I feel like Shore would go from a tall guy to Masvidal. I feel like more of a short Edgar guy. But maybe that's how he'll look at the division. It's 5'8". Not short, I don't think, but not tall for that division or that era of flyweight, I guess, either. That should be the average height for a featherweight. It's where I should be, minus the pounds I'm clearly holding right now. Fucking awful. All right, recap. Let's get the fuck out of here, folks. Did I miss any notes? Mach 1 is 2-2 in the O2. Leon Edwards is undefeated in the UK. Landsman. All right, yeah, we got everything. All right, recapping picks. All right. Taking Edwards over Usman, taking Fiziev over Gaethje, taking Barberena, who I'm undefeated is picking on as an underdog, dating back to Worley Alvarez and Sage Northcutt. I'm putting my undefeated betting record, my undefeated underdog betting record on Barberena on the line by taking him over Connie Nelson. Taking O'Neal over Maya, probably, but again, Extreme Couture bias. Careful on that one. Taking Vittori over Delice, whatever. Taking Shore over Amir Khani. We'll see if I take Omar over Chris Duncan. We'll see if I take Sam Patterson over Ashmoff. We'll probably take Makhaev over Filo. We'll probably take Murphy over Santos, but Santos is good in a live dog, folks, so be careful on that one. And see where I end up on fight night. We'll probably take Hadley over Gordon, but I still feel like it'll be dog or pass despite my pick or yours. Probably taking Wood, but not confidently. Probably taking Duncan, but not confidently. / we'll see over to Dorvier. We'll probably take Rudovic Klein over, Jai Herbert. We'll probably take Juliana Miller over Veronica Macedo. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to comment, and follow along for further live shows and breakdowns. Hopefully I can continue to get things better in the right direction and pull. And we're doing good with results wise, but my body is failing me, and I got to get back on the track here. Apologies if I'm not getting back to y'all. Just know it's been busy and crazy here, and I'm in extra tunnel vision. It's all love. I love y'all. I'll reply to your DMs soon. For plays, I don't know what my round robin's going to be, but it's probably going to be Fiziev KO, a Shore round prop. Something with Barberena, if not just the money line, and something with Edwards, if not just the money line. That'll probably be my round robin. No parlay, probably no parlay. Only straight play is Edwards money line plus 210, 1 unit. Only total play is Nelson Barberena under 1.5 plus 140. That is 1 unit. Fortified that with some Barberena round flyers, round 2 plus 1200, 0.17 unit, round 3 plus 1800. Shout out to Master of Love. 0.17. You also shout out to D-Love, the turmeric tonic. Use code PROTECT15 for 15% off for turmeric lemon ginger blend, which is amazing. Also took short inside the distance, minus 140, 1.4 unit for 1 unit return. Gonna look to bet rounds 2 and 3. Stay posted on those. Took a small little fun little flyer there on round 3 TKO plus 1,000 small at Bet Online. Edwards by decision plus 450. Only put a quarter unit on that. And of course Fiziev by KO plus 120. Another 1.5 unit for this week. The biggest bet of the week by a dime. That's what I got. If I add any more, I will, of course, track it over on Action Network or the Action Network app. If you guys want to go check that out, at Dan Tom MMA on Twitter is where you can find me most active on most social media spots. That's where I post my picks and plays on fight day, as well as my main card picks and prognostications to see where I finally end up there. Thank you guys for joining again. Really appreciate you guys for joining me live. Sorry for being, late and stuff. And, always aiming to get better. Hope you guys are too. Much love. Best of luck. And always protect your neck.